The hospital was chaos. Code Blue echoed through the halls, sending nurses and doctors sprinting toward the ER. Claire tightened her ponytail, adrenaline pumping as she pushed through the crowded corridor toward the commotion. The paramedics wheeled in an unconscious man, his face pale, his breath shallow. Blood soaked his torn shirt. He had no ID, no family listed. He was just another John Doe, another patient in crisis. BP is dropping fast, shouted Dr. Harris. Push 1 of AP. Prepare for intubation, Claire commanded, her voice steady despite the storm brewing inside her. She leaned over the man, her hands steady as she worked to save him. Something about his face tugged at a memory. Familiar eyes, even in their half-shut state. A scar above his eyebrow. But there was no time to think. The heart monitor flatlined. No, not today, Claire muttered, starting compressions. Come on, stay with me. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours before a weak pulse finally returned. Relief washed over the team. Claire exhaled. Her eyes locked on the man as they stabilized him and wheeled him into the ICU. Later that night, Claire couldn't shake the strange feeling lingering in her chest. She sat by his bedside, studying his face. Something about him haunted her. He was older, worn down by life, but the features were unmistakable. Her fingers trembled as she opened his medical file, flipping through the pages until she found it. His name, David Lancaster. Her heart stopped. Couldn't be. Claire's mother had told her the story 1,000 times. Her father, David Lancaster, had left when she was a baby. No explanation, no letters, just gone. For years, Claire had tried to find him, but every lead went cold. Eventually, she gave up, believing he was either dead or didn't want to be found. But now he was lying right in front of her. The next morning, David stirred, his eyes fluttering open. His gaze met hers, confused and disoriented. Where am I? His voice was hoarse, weak. You're in the hospital, Claire said softly. You had an accident, but you're going to be okay. David blinked, trying to sit up. Thank you, nurse. Her throat tightened. My name's Claire. For a moment, the name seemed to hang in the air between them. His eyes widened, and he studied her face with a mix of shock and recognition. Claire, he whispered. His hand reached for hers, trembling. Is it really you? Tears welled in her eyes. It's me, Dad. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions. Pain, regret, hope. David explained everything. How he had left to protect her and her mother from dangerous people he had gotten involved with. How he had spent years trying to rebuild his life and find them, but it was too late. He thought they were better off without him. Claire listened, her heart torn between anger and longing. It wasn't easy to forgive, but as the walls between them slowly crumbled, she realized that life had given them a second chance. In the end, they promised to move forward together. Father and daughter, finally reunited after all those lost years. And in that hospital room, surrounded by beeping monitors and the scent of antiseptic, they began the healing process. Not just of his body, but of their hearts.